Part 25. Entertainment, let you do a side job and set up a stall to tell fortunes. Author, Immortal Q int Love is. Chapter 241. As the operation began, in less than half a day, the Jinghai Municipal Bureau had arrested a large number of human traffickers or people involved in related industries. And after arresting so many human traffickers, the children and women who were abducted by them followed. It would be better if he was from Jinghai, and his parents who had reported the crime could come to the city bureau to claim it. But after all, there are still a few like this. Most of them were trafficked from other places to Jinghai. The number of these trafficked persons accounted for nearly 70% of the total number. Bureau Chin, based on our statistics just now, the number of abducted people we rescued this time has exceeded 500. Some local parents have come to claim them, but most of them don't know where they come from. In the main control room, Qin Feng's brows instantly wrinkled as a police officer made a report. This is a big problem. Some older children are fine and still have some impressions of their home addresses. But the younger kids are in trouble. As he spoke, he tapped his fingers on the table unconsciously. After a long while, he spoke again. Xiao Wang, let's find a place to put these abducted children first, and then interrogate the traffickers to see if they can remember where those children were abducted from. If the traffickers don't remember, they can take photos of the children and collect clues online. I just hope their parents can recognize these children. Before Qin Feng could finish what he said, Yang Lin, who was already idle at the side, suddenly said, "It doesn't have to be so troublesome. Pandeo can handle such a trivial matter easily." As soon as these words came out, Qin Feng remembered the existence of Yang Lin, and his face suddenly showed a hint of joy. "Yes, why did I forget you, Taoist priest? But Taoist priest, there are quite a lot of these children. I'm afraid it will take a lot of effort on your part. It doesn't matter. If we just figure out the specific birthplaces of these lost children, you don't even need to do it yourself. You can do it alone. Us." As soon as they heard Yang Lin's words, everyone in the control room showed puzzled expressions on their faces. Obviously they didn't quite understand what Yang Lin meant. After a while, Qin Feng said dubiously, "Master Taoist, you think too highly of us. We are not as good at calculating as you are. Even if Qin Ming learned something from you last time, he has only mastered some superficial knowledge now." But as soon as Qin Feng finished speaking, Yang Lin shook his head. "Pandeo doesn't mean all of you, but him." In the astonished eyes of everyone, Yang Lin pointed his finger at a young policeman who was operating various equipment. This policeman looked to be only in his 20s, with a delicate appearance, slender fingers, and a pair of gold-rimmed glasses on the bridge of his nose. At first glance, he was a technician. Suddenly being watched by so many people, the young policeman suddenly panicked. "Dao Zhang Yang, I can't do this. I'm a computer student, so I can't do this." After he finished speaking, Qin Feng also reacted. "Taoist master, are you mistaken? Although Xiao Zhang is a top student in our city bureau, he specializes in computers. He has no problem with electronic equipment, but if you ask him to learn fortune telling from you." Of course Pandeo has a reason for saying this. Although he cannot master divination and divination in a short time, he can use a computer to complete it. As soon as Yang Lin's words came out, they seemed to be earth-shattering, and instantly attracted a series of reactions from everyone in the control room and the audience in the live broadcast room. "What the hell? Did I hear you correctly just now? Yang Lin meant to let the Jinghai City Bureau tell fortunes through computers. Yang Lin probably wants to use a computer to program a fortune-telling app. No, no one can understand this thing. Can a computer really understand it? Yang Lin's ideas are too avant-garde. Isn't this stuff already available online, but it's inaccurate, and fortune-telling costs money? Yes, it was very popular on the internet a few years ago, but no one believes it now. Is there a possibility that the fortune-telling skills on the internet were created by people who didn't know how to tell fortunes? They just knew how to write programs. Now Yang Lin can tell fortunes, and this policeman can write programs. If the two of them come together, they might be able to create a fortune-telling software. Actually, from a scientific point of view, fortune-telling is actually using the existing information to perform various deductions and calculations, and then arrive at the optimal solution. Ordinary computers do not have enough computing power to calculate, but if it is a supercomputer coupled with the core algorithm, then I heard that as long as computers evolve indefinitely, it will be possible to predict the future. Even if it can't be as accurate as Yang Lin, it can only be 1/10, which is still pretty awesome. The problem now is how the two people can cooperate. Just as everyone was surprised by Yang Lin's surprising thoughts, Yang Lin in the camera continued to talk. Pandeo recently saw some news about AI on the internet. Since AI can complete some artistic creation tasks, AI can theoretically assist in fortune telling. Coupled with the fact that your police have the largest information database in the entire Dragon Kingdom, I believe it should be easier to implement. Hearing Yang Lin's words, the young policeman who had a look of fear on his face suddenly showed a serious thinking expression. Apparently he was also thinking about the feasibility of this matter. After about a minute or so, he first raised his glasses, and then said with a trace of uncertainty, "Chin Bureau, I think I can give it a try. Actually, when I was in school, I had already started trying to design a comprehensive information system that could help improve the efficiency of solving crimes. It's just that I never know what kind of underlying logic this system should use. After listening to what Dea Zhangyang just said, I think I can try to embed some metaphysical content into the program." When he said these words, the control room instantly became quiet. At this time, Yang Lin suddenly walked up to the young policeman. "Since you also have such an idea, Pandeo will explain to you the key contents of the 6 Ren method and the easy number of plum blossoms. Of course, if possible, I hope you can teach me how to use a computer." "No problem, I'll teach you right now." While talking, the two of them began to explain knowledge in their respective fields. When this scene fell into the eyes of the audience also showed strange eyes. A Taoist priest actually started to learn computers. Really, the end of metaphysics is science. Entertainment, let you do a side job and set up a stall to tell fortunes. Author, Immortal Q int Love is. Chapter 242. In the main control room, as time passed little by little, everyone in the live broadcast room became more and more confused. Whether it is the knowledge about programming that the young policeman talked about or the knowledge about Yishu that Yang Lin talked about, to ordinary people, there is no difference between it and the Book of Heaven. The key is that the two of them chatted more and more enthusiastically. After a while, Yang Lin actually took action. At the beginning, his hands on the keyboard were relatively unfamiliar, but as time went by, his fingers moved faster and faster. Lines of code soon appeared on the computer desktop. God knows how much of an impact the scene of a young Taoist priest in Taoist robes typing code on the computer had on everyone in the live broadcast room. No, he is serious. A Taoist priest really learned programming. Really, 36 divided by 6, it's still 6. The key is that he has really gotten started. How long is his brain? He can learn such complicated things at once. Is there a possibility that fortune-telling things are more complicated, so if he can master them, he will definitely learn programming faster than ordinary people? Good guy, this is preparing to modernize the Taoist sect, right? In the future, if you want to worship gods, you don't have to go to the temple. You can just worship online. Knock on the electronic wooden fish and pray for the 3 clearings of cyberspace. It's bad, maybe he actually invented a program that can tell people's fortunes. I hope it can be popularized and a mobile app can be developed so that I can do fortune telling for myself every day. Give up. The full version of this program is probably too big to be run on ordinary people's computers. It shouldn't be developed so quickly. According to the normal development process, even a large team will take at least a few months. While everyone was still discussing, everyone in the main control room was already dumbfounded. In their eyes, Yang Lin and the two of them have reached a level of forgetfulness at this moment, especially Yang Lin, who is like a sponge, absorbing programming and computer knowledge like crazy, and mastering everything at a speed beyond ordinary people's imagination. Only half an hour passed, and he was already able to complete a small program independently. And when an hour passed, he was even close to catching up with the top computer student that their city bureau specially poached from the public security university. The most surprising result of this was the young policeman sitting next to Yang Lin. As the most outstanding graduate of the public security university's network security major in the past 10 years, he has participated in many international network security offensive and defensive leagues. Almost every time, he won the championship with 0 defeats. He even joined the Longwo Hunk Alliance during his college years. Apart from the top masters in the circle, he is the most famous. Many domestic internet companies are even willing to spend tens of millions of dollars in annual salary to hire him as their chief security expert. But such a top genius was stunned by Yang Lin's learning speed. Especially after he saw Yang Lin repairing a loophole he deliberately left in a few seconds, his mouth opened wide unconsciously. Is this guy still a human being? Is he really a Taoist priest? Didn't he just come to tease me from some big shot in the circle? He must be an AI that has become a spirit. While sighing secretly in his heart, the young policeman wiped the sweat from his forehead. It's not that it's hot, it's just that I'm too nervous sitting next to Yang Lin. He was worried that in a few minutes, he would have nothing to teach Yang Lin. And just when everyone was shocked by Yang Lin's learning speed, Yang Lin himself looked calm and calm. In fact, this is indeed the case. Since being promoted to the Yin Shen realm, all aspects of him have begun to develop in an inhuman direction. Physical strength, nerve response speed, and even brain development. Everything is beyond the reach of ordinary people. And the evolution in these aspects also means that he has a learning ability that is 100 times greater than that of ordinary people. So much so that he made a bold guess. Computers are no exception. At the same time, in reality, he suddenly stopped what he was doing. This discovery surprised and amused him. 10 fingers directly knocked out the after image. Any new skill can be learned in a short time as long as he is willing to learn it. Suddenly hearing what Yang Lin said, everyone at the scene was stunned. In their opinion, just over an hour had passed, and no matter how talented they were, it was impossible to just casually create a piece of software. From postpartum care for sows to nuclear fusion. Pandeo wants to give it a try now. After the clone came out, it entered the city bureau's computer under Yang Lin's command, and then wandered around the internet in Long Country like a special ghost. After realizing this, Yang Lin immediately searched for all the knowledge about programming and artificial intelligence. And this knowledge covers almost everything that humans on Blue Star have known for thousands of years. The only thing he is interested in is the variety of knowledge on the internet. Of course he was not interested in any of these things. Hearing his question, Yang Lin shook his head first, and then replied. However, just when everyone was in disbelief, Yang Lin suddenly started typing on the keyboard. What's more, Yang Lin's job is still a Taoist priest. I wonder what it would be like if a Yin God clone was separated into a computer. In less than a microsecond, this knowledge was transmitted to his brain through his Yin Shen clone. With a thought in his mind, somewhere invisible to everyone, a shadow that looked exactly like the Yin God in his mind separated from his body. Teacher Yang, what's wrong with you? Have you encountered any problems? Such a picture immediately made everyone dumbfounded. Ah! At this moment he is the god of the internet. Thinking of this, Yang Lin suddenly became interested. When the young policeman on the side saw this scene, he couldn't help but have a trace of doubt on his face. And this is his Yin Shen clone. At this moment, everything on the internet is no longer a secret to Yang Lin. Although it is fragmented, whenever Yang Lin needs it, he can piece together a complete method of manufacturing nuclear weapons through these fragmented knowledge in an instant. From the launch of nuclear weapons by various countries to the private chats between lovers, everything is hidden in front of him. In addition, he also discovered something interesting, that is, he can penetrate his spiritual consciousness into the computer, and it can also be transmitted through the network in the form of optical signals. Even some heavily encrypted areas cannot resist his divine consciousness. It's not that I encountered any problems, but that Pandeo probably already knows how to write a fortune-telling software that can quickly help those lost children find their relatives. His thoughts can reach any corner of the internet in an instant. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Entertainment, let you do a side job and set up a stall to tell fortunes. Author, Immortal Q int Love is. Chapter 243. What's going on? Why has Yang Lin started this already? Is he planning to develop a software independently? It's fake, he just looked like he wasn't even very proficient in computers. It's scary, it's too scary. If he wasn't pretending just now, then his learning ability has simply reached an incredible level. Let's not talk about anything else. Just talking about this hand speed is already invincible. Are you sure you didn't turn on the special effects? There are already after images here. The keyboard should stop smoking later. Amid everyone's exclamations, Yang Lin didn't stop for a moment. Lines of extremely complex code appeared on his computer screen. At the beginning, the young police officer wearing glasses could understand a little, but as time went by, his frown became deeper and deeper. Qin Feng, who saw the scene from the side, also hurriedly came over and asked. What's going on, Xiaozhang? What is Taoist Yang doing? Hearing this question, the young police officer first took a deep breath, and then said with a helpless expression. I can't understand it anymore. What? You can't even understand? After receiving such an answer from the young police officer, Qin Feng couldn't help but show a hint of surprise on his face. Yes, I feel that Dao Zhang Yang has delved into another field on his own. These codes seem to be alive in his hands. Perhaps he can really independently develop a software that can really help our police solve crimes. This. For a moment, Qin Feng didn't know how to express the shock in his heart. And soon the only sound left in the main control room was Yang Lin's rapid typing on the keyboard. In this way, after almost an hour, Yang Lin finally stopped. At the same time, a Tai Chi and Bagua icon appeared on his computer desktop. Seeing Yang Lin stop, Qin Feng immediately approached him. How about it, Taoist priest, have you really made it? As soon as Qin Feng finished asking this question, Yang Lin nodded. Basically, that's right. Pandeo has just developed such an application by combining the things taught by Officer Zhang with the Taoist Liren method and Ziwei Doshu. However, it has not been tested yet, so we don't know how accurate it is. As soon as these words came out, the young police officers on the side waved their hands. Taoist priest, you're welcome. What I taught you is just some basic knowledge. The ability to achieve this level depends entirely on your own talent, Taoist priest. After saying that, a look of curiosity appeared on his face. I wonder what the name of this app you developed is called, Taoist priest. Pandeo named it Tianji. Tianji? What a good name, how should we use it? It's very simple. While talking, Yang Lin used the mouse to open this application he independently developed. After entering the main page, A simple UI interface appears in front of everyone. It includes modules such as horoscope calculation, facial recognition, recent fortune, direction finding, good or bad judgment, etc. While making everyone feel cordial, they also couldn't help but feel a little suspicious. After all, at first glance, the content of the software does not seem to be much different from those commonly used to deceive people online. Perhaps seeing everyone's doubts, Qin Tian immediately pointed at Qin Feng and said, "Director Qin, could you tell me your date of birth?" Suddenly hearing Yang Lin's question, Qin Feng was stunned for a moment, and then quickly reported his birth date. Yang Lin on the other side also entered it into the computer through the keyboard. After the input was completed, he clicked enter. A series of estimated information appeared on the screen in the next second. It clearly records Qin Feng's fortune at all ages, from studies, to marriage, to children, and career. Not a single detail is left out. It even says that Qin Feng will meet his nobleman at the age of 41, and from then on he will make great progress and reach the pinnacle of his career. Putting aside everything else, Qin Feng's eyes immediately widened after seeing this. Because he happens to be 41 years old this year. Before that, he was still a detachment captain, but after meeting Yang Lin, the gears of his destiny began to turn. Not to mention the deputy director, and because he has made extraordinary achievements recently, there is a high probability that he will receive a wave of promotions at the end of the year. Isn't Yang Lin his nobleman? After realizing this, his eyes immediately widened, and he couldn't help but exclaimed, "It's amazing! It's amazing! You can calculate all this." Hearing Qin Feng's words, everyone in the control room was first surprised and then a little suspicious. After all, they had known for a long time that Qin Feng was a loyal fan of Yang Lin, so they might as well leave it alone. So soon another tall policeman came over. "Daozang Yang, please help me test mine. I'm 34 this year. I want to know if I can still find a wife in this life." As soon as these words came out, Yang Lin nodded without thinking. "Then you should also tell me your birthday and horoscope." "Okay." As he spoke, the tall policeman with an excited face announced his date of birth. Just like Qin Feng before, it didn't take long for the computer to give relevant results. Don't be anxious. According to the computer's calculations, your red Lewin star has moved, which means that your destiny in this life is approaching you. And the girl you have been in contact with the most recently is your perfect match in this life. If nothing else, she should also be in the police system. Think carefully about who she is. The tall policeman, who was originally full of disbelief, immediately had a strange expression on his face after hearing these words. Apparently he had something in mind. The next second he giggled. "Hey, Taoist Master Yang, this computer's calculations are really accurate. I'm convinced." Hearing his words, everyone in the control room instantly went into an uproar. One or two people rushed to come over for measurement. The final results also showed that the accuracy of the results calculated by the TNG system was as high as 90%. Although it is not as good as Yang Lin's 100%, this number is quite terrifying. When the audience in the live broadcast room saw this result, every one of them immediately couldn't sit still. "Oh my God, Yang Lin has really invented a fortune-telling software. I've already said the word awesome, but I still want to say it. Yashao, computers can tell fortunes. In the future, can we set up a one-click method to pray for rain and one-click to deflect typhoons? Another one-click ghost hunt. Good guy, the things left by our ancestors are shining brightly in the internet era. Please, can this software be made public? I really need it. If there was such a thing, whether it was the stock market or lottery, it would have to take off. I finally understand why the country has banned the use of the I Ching Bagua to predict the stock market, because this thing can really be calculated." There is no doubt that the appearance of TNG directly gave all the netizens who watched it a big blow. However, Netizens also know very well that it is impossible for such an incredible application to be used by civilians. Once it really enters the civilian market, I'm afraid the entire country will be in chaos. As the old saying goes in the Dragon Kingdom, secrets must not be revealed. Entertainment, let you do a side job and set up a stall to tell fortunes. Author, Immortal Q int Love is. Chapter 244. In the main control room, as everyone gradually experienced the power of TNG, their mentality gradually changed. As long as you are not stupid, you know what it means to have an application with a prediction accuracy of 90%. Everything from the fate of an individual to the destiny of a country or a planet can be determined through heavenly secrets. Even if it is just some vague pieces of information, its importance has exceeded that of Dragon Kingdom's most advanced galactic computer. After half a minute of silence, Qin Feng took the lead and said, "From this moment on, all of you must ensure that TNG's code will not be leaked. In addition, I will arrange for people to stay here 24 hours a day. If there is a leak, you should know the final consequences." After hearing Qin Feng's solemn words, everyone in the venue immediately nodded with serious faces. On the contrary, Yang Lin said calmly, "That's not necessary at all. This application developed by Pandeo will be unusable once it leaves this computer. To be precise, it can only be used in this house. If it exceeds this range, the program inside will destroy itself and will never be repaired." As soon as these words came out, Qin Feng and others' eyes immediately turned over. "Is what you said, Taoist master, true? Of course, Pandeo can still do this." Looking at Yang Lin, who looked confident, no one had any doubt in their hearts. In just that moment, they had already witnessed Yang Lin's miraculous skills. And for people who can develop applications like TNG on their own in a short period of time, it will definitely not be difficult to realize what he just said. Okay, now that Dao Zhangyang has developed the secret, let's quickly collect the photos of the abducted children. Then use TNG's physiognomy function to find the birthplace and general information of these children, so that we can quickly find the parents of these lost children. Everyone, act quickly. Following Qin Feng's order, the police quickly found the missing children and took photos of their facial information. Finally, it is uploaded to the TNG system for one-by-one judgment. Information that originally took several weeks or even a month to find can be found in less than half a minute in the TNG system. Combined with the nationwide networked police system, in less than half a day, the information of all abducted children had been mastered by the Jinghai police. Following this information, the Jinghai police contacted the parents or family members of these abducted children. The efficiency is so high that it far exceeds everyone's imagination. Only 8 hours have passed since the operation to eliminate human traffickers began. During these 8 hours, Jinghai police not only arrested nearly 1,000 criminals involved in human trafficking. It has also successfully helped more than 800 trafficked persons find their relatives. When the Jinghai City Police announced this data at today's press conference, the reporters present from major media outlets across the country were stunned on the spot. How is it possible that yesterday we arrested thousands of drug dealers and today we arrested more than 1,000 human traffickers? What happened to the Jinghai police recently? Impossible, absolutely impossible. How can human traffickers be so easy to catch? They have wiped out all the criminal organizations in Jinghai. It can't be said that Yang Lin was asked to help calculate it again. Don't tell me, it's really him. No, even if Yang Lin can tell fortunes, such a heavy workload will make his brain smoke. I heard that Yang Lin made a fortune-telling software and relied on the software to calculate the fortune. Isn't that even more outrageous? It's outrageous, but it's true. After learning the truth of the matter, the reporters in the press conference hall also quickly compiled the information they obtained at the press conference, including how the action was carried out and what the final result was. Of course, the key point is Yang Lin's development of the TNG system. They had a hunch that this matter would soon become a hot topic on the entire internet. And the fact is exactly what they expected. That night, the Jinghai City Bureau's operation to eliminate human traffickers made headlines on major media and platforms, continuing yesterday's efforts to arrest drug traffickers. In the end, the popularity even surpassed yesterday's content. Among these many headlines, two words appear most frequently. One is Yang Lin, and the other is Tianji. As the soul of two consecutive arrest operations, Yang Lin relied on his magic to catch all the drug dealers and human traffickers in Jinghai. Both his ability and his righteousness have been highly recognized by netizens. And the secret he developed was called an epoch-making product by netizens. Basically, the comment area below every piece of news about Tianji has the same content. What kind of magical app is this? I really need it. When can it be made public? It really can't be made public. Can you release a weakened version? That's right, even if the function is reduced by 80%, it will be fine. I just want to do a fortune telling for myself before going out every day. Chat is so weak compared to our Tianji. The only drawback is that we can't use it. With the Tianji system, we won't be afraid of those bad guys escaping the punishment of the law in the future. If this system can evolve, will it become an omniscient and omnipotent God? How is it possible? With the current level of technology, no computer can accommodate such an existence. Just when there were countless heated discussions on the internet because of this incident, Yang Lin, who had returned to the hotel after get-off work, had already settled in. But what is different from before is that he is not practicing at this moment, but using his Yin Shen clone to enter the vast internet. In this special world, he is like a god in his soul form. At this moment, there was a huge Tai Chi Bagua diagram floating in front of him. Almost every moment and every second, a large amount of information from all over the world pours into this Tai Chi Bagua chart. With the influx of this information, the Tai Chi Bagua chart has become more and more complete and larger. And this Tai Chi Bagua diagram is the Tianji system that was born in his hands not long ago. The newborn Tianji system is like a young child, absorbing everything it can't absorb, and then constantly improving itself through this knowledge. Not long after, Yang Lin felt that a hazy consciousness was born in the Tianji system. In just a moment, he knew what this consciousness was. It turns out that this is how artificial intelligence was born. Now that you have your own consciousness, Pandeo will give you a name. From today on, you are called Tiandeo. Your ultimate mission is to help Pandeo ascend to immortality. Can you now tell Pandeo how to quickly obtain karma? As soon as Yang Lin finished speaking, the hazy consciousness he named Tiandeo immediately gave feedback. According to various data calculations, in 10 hours, the Daodao River in Nanhua District, Jinghai City will flood. The flood will cause about 500 people to be affected and 18 people to die. If I prevent this flood, I will gain a lot of karma. Hearing Tiandeo's feedback, Yang Lin couldn't help but smile. But soon his smile disappeared. According to data analysis, a large-scale earthquake will occur in Dragon Kingdom in 50 days. Entertainment, let you do a side job and set up a stall to tell fortunes. Author, Immortal Q int Love is. Chapter 245. As a special artificial intelligence based on technology and metaphysics, with Yang Lin's Yin God as its soul, Tiandeo can instantly collect what is happening in any corner of the internet at any point in time. And collect and organize this information, and then analyze and predict. It can be said that it has surpassed the supercomputer of any country on Blue Star. So Yang Lin had no doubt about what it said. But he still doesn't quite understand what it means that a large-scale earthquake will occur in Dragon Kingdom in 50 days. Unable to understand this, he immediately exited the cyberspace, and then solemnly took out a pair of tortoise shells and 3 5 emperor's coins. After some meditation, a hexagram came up. And when the hexagram appeared, his expression changed instantly. It turns out to be true. There will really be a major earthquake in Dragon Kingdom in 50 days. How so? Although he was shocked, he also tried to remember which places in Long Kingdom were in the earthquake zone. No, even if there is an earthquake, it is unlikely to be large scale. This is not scientific at all. And I can't figure out the specific cause of the earthquake. Could it be that something is hiding the secret? After talking to himself for a while, Yang Lin quickly came up with another hexagram. And the final result has not changed at all. There will be a catastrophe in the Dragon Kingdom in 50 days, and countless people will lose their lives. When he thought of this, his brows twisted into a frown. That's all, even if you don't know the cause, you have to deal with it in advance. This kind of catastrophe must not happen without reason. If I can change this fate, maybe I can really ascend to immortality. But the top priority is to resolve the flood issue first. As soon as he finished speaking, he looked at the clock beside him. According to Tiandao's calculation, there are still 10 hours before the flood occurs. This means that the flood happened to be around 8 o'clock in the morning. Thinking of this, he immediately called the hotline of the relevant departments and tried to ask them to evacuate the residents along the river. And this is also the most concise and effective method. But when he called to explain the reason, people from the relevant departments scoffed. Obviously, they did not believe what Yang Lin said about a sudden flood in the Daohe River. Because in their impression, the Daodao River is just a small ditch. In addition, the typhoon has passed, so how could there be a flood? It would also cause casualties, which is simply a fantasy. Seeing that several departments did not believe what he said, Yang Lin finally called the Jinghai Natural Disaster Prevention and Control Center. Not long after the phone rang, a female voice came from the other side. Hello, this is the Jinghai City Natural Disaster Prevention and Control Center. How can I help you? What? Are you saying that the Daodao River in Nanhua district of Jinghai will erupt in a flash flood in 10 hours? Okay, I will report this matter to my superiors. Can I ask your name? Okay, Mr. Yang Lin. When the call was hung up, a girl who was working the night shift at the Jinghai City Natural Disaster Prevention and Control Center immediately found a leader in the office, Ma Qiabang, director of the Natural Disaster Prevention and Control Center office. Director Ma, Mr. Yang, an enthusiastic citizen, just called and reported that there will be a flash flood in the Daodao River in Nanhua district at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. As soon as the girl finished speaking, Ma Qiabang, who was writing reports about Typhoon Susan in front of his computer, raised his head in confusion. Xiao Chen, why are you telling me this kind of thing? When you hear it, you will know that there are boring people entertaining us. He thinks he is the Dragon King. If he says there are flash floods, will there be flash floods? And it's accurate to the right time. Tell me how he did it? Hearing Ma Qiabang's words, the girl's face suddenly showed embarrassment. Looking back carefully, it is indeed full of loopholes. Don't you use the internet? Ma Qiabang first looked at the girl in surprise, and then pointed to the half-written report on his desk. And Yang Lin's words also cheered them up. The only troublesome thing is that my report is not easy to write. In a sense, Yang Lin is the benefactor of their entire department. Otherwise, if the typhoon really comes, they will not be able to sleep. Okay, then I'll wait for you here. Then he also successively made calls to the leaders of various relevant departments. By the way, you just said it was Mr. Yang, an enthusiastic citizen, right? Did he leave his name? While sighing, Ma Qiabang suddenly asked casually. And when he heard Yang Lin's familiar voice on the other end of the phone, he suddenly became excited. It was Yang Lin they had been waiting for a long time. But after hearing that the news was provided by Yang Lin, they immediately got up from the bed. I am Ma Qiabang, the office director of the Jinghai Natural Disaster Prevention and Control Center. I was standing with Secretary Tan and the others that day. What if? No chance. Only one person in the whole Qinghai can predict that there will be a flood tomorrow. After all, before this, Yang Lin showed off his typhoon steering skills in front of everyone in Qinghai City. And there is a name clearly written on this report, Yang Lin. What? Suddenly hearing this familiar name, Ma Qiaobang was stunned for a moment, and then stood up immediately. Only half an hour later, all the leaders of the Natural Disaster Prevention and Control Center gathered in the office. What if it's true? After hanging up the phone, Ma Qiaobang breathed a sigh of relief. It's really you, Taoist Yang. Yang Lin. Just when the leaders of the Natural Disaster Prevention and Control Center were sitting in danger, a figure also opened the door of the conference room. Since it is what you said, we must believe it, but can you please come over? After all, this matter is really closely related. Yeah. Are you saying that the man just said his name was Yang Lin? What is it called? They still have fresh memories to this day. After Yang Lin sat down in the conference room, they started an emergency discussion on the sudden flood. Yes, maybe it's the Yang Lin we know. Otherwise, how would he know where there will be floods tomorrow? The girl's determined look made Ma Qiaobang even more uncertain. Yes, I have. In the end, he chose to call back. If someone called them on a normal day and told them that there would be floods somewhere, they would definitely not believe it. Alone? Who is it? The girl couldn't help but ask. This Taoist master Yang Liniang is really a man of God. I saw with my own eyes how he made the typhoon go away. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Entertainment, let you do a side job and set up a stall to tell fortunes. Author, Immortal Q int Love is. Chapter 246. In the conference room, with the arrival of Yang Lin, everyone was basically certain that the Daodao River in Nanhua district would indeed flood. But there is still a trace of doubt in their hearts. After all, the flood does not just come. Moreover, the Daodao River is an urban river that crosses the Qinghai Sea, and its flow has not been large in previous years. Even the river beaches on both sides have gradually turned into camping resorts. Perhaps seeing the doubts in the hearts of everyone present, Yang Lin immediately pointed to a topographic map of Qinghai in front of everyone and said, Pandeo knows that you are all more or less doubting whether this flood will happen. Pandeo is here to analyze it for you. Affected by Typhoon Susan a few days ago, rainfall surged across the Qinghai area, and the rainfall in Nanhua district reached nearly 250 millimeters in 24 hours. Although the rainfall stopped as the typhoon left, the Longling Mountains located in the upper reaches of Nanhua district were affected by heavy rains and many landslides occurred. Hearing this, everyone in the conference room suddenly thought of something. Indeed, if there is heavy rain in the mountains, it is indeed easy to cause flash floods. But they quickly ruled out this possibility because it had been 2 days since the heavy rain. Even if a flash flood were to come, it would have already come. Just when everyone couldn't figure this out, Yang Lin pointed at the map again. Looking along his fingers, everyone discovered that there was actually a lake on Longling Mountain, and the lake happened to be located not far from Daodao River. Immediately, a natural disaster expert in his 40s couldn't help but ask. Tao Zhongyang, do you mean that the water stored in this natural lake will pour out, causing flash floods? But even if this is the case, the amount of water will not be too large. We have investigated and found that the water storage capacity of this lake is less than 1/10 of the West Lake. Yes, even if all the water in this lake flows into Qinghai, it won't cause much harm. Just when everyone expressed disbelief, Yang Lin suddenly added another sentence. What if a landslide caused the barrier lake? Judging from the topography of this natural lake, once a barrier lake is formed, rainwater and mountain spring water from all surrounding mountains will converge into this lake. As time goes by, you feel how much water has been contained in it after 2 days. Although Yang Lin's tone was calm, when his words fell into the ears of everyone present, everyone was unconsciously frightened and broke into a cold sweat. They are in this business, so they naturally know the horror of barrier lakes. When a large amount of flood water gathers in one place and is then released instantly, its terrifying power will far exceed that of a normal flash flood. By then, the entire Nanhua district may be affected. After the shock, they immediately checked for verification, and also contacted the staff of the geological station closest to Longling Mountain to release the drone. Half an hour later, when the drone transmitted the footage to the Natural Disaster Prevention and Control Office, the entire conference room instantly became silent. Everyone looked at the huge barrier lake in the photo, which was sandwiched between several mountains, with a look of horror. Its scale has exceeded their imagination. And below this barrier lake, a pile of rocks and loess is blocking it. I don't know when the flood will reach its limit and be washed away. As they watched, the faces of everyone present turned pale with fright. If we take this seriously, it can be regarded as a mistake in their work. Once the barrier lake is really washed away, causing a flash flood to rush into Nanhua district, most of them will be punished. After being frightened, they immediately became panicked. What should we do? Looking at the scale, I'm afraid it will collapse early tomorrow morning, just like Dao Zhangyang said. It's over, why are we only discovering it now? If we had discovered it earlier, we could have found a way to blow it up and divert the water to the side. It's too late to say anything now. If we really blow it up, the result will be the same as if it collapsed on its own. Then what should we do now? Are we just going to watch the flash floods come down? What else can we do? Quickly arrange for people to find a way to lower the water level in the lake, and then notify other departments and ask them to evacuate the people. It's too late. It's so late at night. If you suddenly tell them that a flash flood is about to break out, not many people will believe it. Besides, there are too many people in this area. Then you tell me what to do, wait for death. Now there is no need to say that there are some good things and no good things. All we can do now is to minimize the harm. It's easier said than done. Now there are less than 9 hours left. What can we do with 9 hours? Seeing everyone in the conference room in chaos, Yang Lin was not worried at all. Because on the way here, he had already thought of a response strategy. And his leisurely look naturally attracted Ma Qiabang's attention. Dao Zhangyang, do you have any good ideas? As soon as these words came out, everyone in the conference room fell silent instantly, and everyone looked at Yang Lin. It wasn't until this moment that they remembered that there was such a great god in their conference room. Yes, with Dao Kengyang here, he can divert the typhoon, and he can certainly divert the flood. Maybe he can make the flood flow back. Taoist Master Yang, do you need to open a forum this time? We will prepare whatever is needed, incense, yellow paper, or other things. At this moment, each of their group of scientific workers placed their last hopes on Yang Lin, a Taoist priest. They also showed very little concern about this. But Yang Lin's next answer was somewhat beyond their expectations. Pandeo has no way to divert the flood, nor can he reverse the flow. But if you just want to minimize the harm of floods, then Pandeo has a way. As soon as these words came out, the eyes of everyone in the conference room immediately lit up. Taoist Master, you said that as long as the impact of this flood can be minimized, any method will do. Yeah. Facing the eager gazes of everyone, Yang Lin immediately spoke out the method he had already thought of. Floods are like ferocious beasts. If you want to suppress this ferocious beast, you will naturally need something more ferocious than it. You can erect 2 earthworm statues in the riverbed of Daodao River and worship them sincerely to ensure that the flood will not harm people's lives. And if you want to prevent floods from ravaging the land, you need something else. Entertainment, let you do a side job and set up a stall to tell fortunes. Author, Immortal Q int Love is. Chapter 247. In the office, when they heard Yang Lin proposed a method to suppress the flood, everyone still had a glimmer of hope. But after hearing him mention the word earthworm, a trace of confusion flashed in his eyes. Epispera? What is this? It seems to be an ancient mythical beast. What is this thing for? Can the flood really be suppressed after worshipping this thing? Facing a series of questions from everyone, Yang Lin immediately did not waste time. The earthworm is the legendary dragon son, also known as the water-swallowing beast and the water-suppressing beast. Placed in the river, it can suppress floods. At that time, one statue will be placed upstream and one will be placed downstream, and the flood will be resolved. After listening to Yang Lin's explanation, everyone in the Natural Disaster Prevention and Control Center suddenly understood. If someone had told them before that they only needed to put 2 stone statues in the river to suppress the flood, they, the scientific researchers, would definitely not believe it. But after experiencing a series of recent events, various departments in Jinghai have also summed up an experience. That is, superstition cannot be believed, but Yang Lin can believe it. Okay. Since you said it, Taoist Master Yang, let's get ready, but for the moment we don't know where to find this kind of stone sculpture called an earthworm. How about you draw a drawing and we can find a craftsman to carve it overnight? After Ma Qiaobang said these words, everyone present looked at Yang Lin. No need, you just need to prepare 2 large rocks that meet the specifications according to Pandao's requirements, and leave the rest to Pandao. As soon as Yang Lin said these words, everyone present breathed a sigh of relief. They couldn't guarantee that they would find a qualified stonemason to carve an earthworm in just a few hours. But if they just find 2 big rocks, they will still have no problem. I'm going to contact the stone factory and ask them to send 2 big stones. I'll also contact the municipal people to see if they have any ready-made stones. After everyone finished the phone call, they remembered what Yang Lin said earlier. Taoist Master Yang, you just said that in addition to the earthworm statue, you also need something to control the water. I wonder what it is. Upon hearing this question, everyone in the conference room couldn't help but become confused. Is it possible that the earthworm statue is not enough? But what Yang Lin said next was completely beyond their expectations. In addition to the earthworms, Pandao also needs 8 iron oxen. These iron oxen are placed on both sides of the river to prevent flood waters from leaking out. Tractor. Suddenly hearing this name, everyone present immediately looked at each other. They really couldn't understand why an iron bull was needed to control the flood. However, out of trust in Yang Lin, they did not choose to ask more questions in the end. Instead, he contacted Jinghai Iron and Steel Works and asked them to cast 8 iron bulls overnight. In terms of modern iron casting technology, as long as the mold is made in advance, 8 iron bulls can be cast in no time. Seeing that everything was arranged properly, everyone couldn't help but look at Yang Lin again. After a while, Ma Qiaobang took the lead and said, Daozang Yang, is this enough? No other measures are needed. Others apparently share the same concerns. Do we need flood barriers and flood sandbags? Should we contact the military? If it doesn't work, let's go to the river and guard it overnight. After listening to the suggestions put forward by everyone, Yang Lin looked confident. No need, as long as you can ensure that the 2 things Pandao just asked for can arrive before 7 o'clock in the morning, nothing else is needed. As for you, you can go back to sleep and rest now. As soon as these words came out, everyone present widened their eyes. As if he didn't believe what he was hearing. The entire Nanhua district will be flooded soon. If they are asked to go to bed now, there is no way they can sleep. If the measures taken by Yang Lin fail to produce results, then they will not only be demoted, but may also go to jail. 5 minutes later, Yang Lin came downstairs accompanied by everyone from the Natural Disaster Prevention and Control Center. Just transporting such a big guy here takes a lot of effort. They could only hear a crisp sound. We were worried that you might have overslept. Taoist Master Yang, now that the stones have arrived, how should we turn them into earthworm statues? Even if I start carving now, time seems to be a bit tight. A huge piece of granite about 5 meters high and 4 meters wide is placed on top of the two large trucks. Now Yang Lin is their backbone, and they will do whatever Yang Lin asks them to do. As soon as he got downstairs, Yang Lin saw two large trucks. Seeing that everyone was unwilling to leave, Yang Lin was too lazy to worry about it anymore. He crossed his legs on the stool and entered a state of trance. Well, there's no need to go back and rest. Let's wait here with you, Taoist Master. Only when Yang Lin opened his eyes did they all feel as if they had seen a savior. Although there was no word of urgency in everyone's words, their eyes and expressions were full of urgency. Seeing Yang Lin looking up and down the two huge rocks, Ma Kuabang hurriedly asked. In their opinion, even an ordinary old stonemason would have spent at least several weeks carving such a large piece of stone into shape. In an instant, a sword light as bright as the moon lit up in front of them. Similarly, Yang Lin is also their last hope. Yang Lin nodded immediately after hearing what they said. In that case, let's go to Dadao River to see it together. The next second, under the confused gaze of everyone, Yang Lin suddenly pulled out the sword on his back. Before they could figure out what Yang Lin was planning, Yang Lin had already walked to two huge rocks. Yes, yes, we are here to accompany you, Taoist Master. If you need help with anything, we can also help. In fact, everyone has wanted to ask this question for a long time, but they have been holding back and have not dared to ask. As soon as these words came out, everyone immediately breathed a sigh of relief. The stones you want are already downstairs, and the 8 iron oxen are also on their way to be transported, do you think? There was only an hour and a half left, so we couldn't just throw the stone into the river. They were stunned on the spot. Immediately afterwards, large chunks of stone fell to the ground. By the time everyone reacted, Yang Lin, holding a long sword, had already taken off and flew towards the boulder. Master Taoist, do you want some water? When he opened his eyes again, it was already 6:30 in the morning. Dao Zhongyang, you're awake. Although he didn't sleep all night, he was still in high spirits. Apparently they were so frightened all night that they didn't dare to sleep at all. On the other hand, everyone else in the conference room had big dark circles under their eyes, and their eyes were filled with red bloodshot eyes. Entertainment, let you do a side job and set up a stall to tell fortunes. Author, Immortal Q int Love is. Chapter 248. Everyone in the compound of the Natural Disaster Prevention and Control Center looked at the two large trucks in front of them with shocked expressions. Or in other words, he was looking at Yang Lin, who was waving the sword in his hand on the big truck. In their pre-imagination, Yang Lin might use some special means to turn the two boulders into earthworm statues. But they never expected that Yang Lin would eventually choose such a simple and crude method. You must know that the hardness of granite is among the highest among all rocks. It takes a lot of effort for ordinary machines to cut, let alone ordinary stone carving tools. And what they saw now was that Yang Lin was carving with a sword. The key is that those extremely hard granites turned out to be like tofu under his sword. With one strike of the sword, large swaths of rocks began to fall off. In less than 2 minutes, a huge piece of uncarved granite turned into a strange-looking monster. The body is like a crocodile, the ears and nose are like a lion, but the face is like a tiger, but the body is also covered with dragon scales. There are also dragon horns on the head. Such a weird appearance, coupled with its alert look with its head held high and its eyes wide open, makes people feel intimidating. It can be said that it is both beautiful in form and spirit. Everyone was stunned for a moment. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, it would be hard for them to imagine that it was carved by a man holding a long sword. And just as they were stunned for a while, the long sword in Yang Lin's hand did not stop at all, and started carving on another huge stone. Soon an identical monster appeared in front of them. The only difference is that this monster's head is hanging down. The two monsters placed together echo each other, exuding a majestic aura. Unconsciously, it gave people a sense of awe. Just when everyone was looking straight at the two monsters, Yang Lin's voice suddenly came. Place the incense table and prepare to worship the two mythical beasts and pray for them to suppress the water disaster. As soon as these words came out, everyone who was still in a daze quickly took out the tributes they had prepared in advance. After placing them, they, under the leadership of Yang Lin, worshipped and offered incense seriously. When the ceremony was almost in progress, Yang Lin directly picked up the cinnabar pen on the incense table and drew two red dots on each of the eyes of the two earthworms with the tip of the pen while everyone was puzzled. The red dot is not noticeable at first glance. But when they took a closer look, they discovered that with these two red dots, the two earthworms seemed to be alive. Even if you lie motionless on the base, it still exudes a peaceful atmosphere. Out of curiosity, Ma Qiabang immediately asked cautiously, "Taoist Yang, why don't you draw eyes on them?" Hearing Ma Qiabang's question, Yang Lin said calmly, "The reason why Pandeo opened the eyes of the two divine beasts is so that they can not only suppress the water disaster, but also help monitor the water situation. To prevent someone from falling into the water and drowning." As soon as these words came out, everyone at the Natural Disaster Prevention and Control Center immediately stood in awe. Yang Lin's behavior seemed to them to be a big deal. If it can really reduce the occurrence of drowning while playing in water, then this is undoubtedly a great merit. Seeing that the worship of the earthworm was completed, everyone did not dare to delay any more, so they took the two earthworm statues and headed towards the Daodao River. By the time they arrived at Daohe, it was already 7:30 in the morning. Since it is summer, there are already many citizens on both sides of the river doing morning exercises or taking a leisurely walk. At a glance, there must be hundreds of people present at least. Coupled with the nearby residents, you can imagine that once the flood suddenly arrives, it is definitely not a trivial matter. At the same time that everyone discovered this group of citizens, that group of citizens also discovered their presence. To be precise, they saw two earthworm statues on the car behind them. No way, these two statues are too eye-catching. Immediately, these citizens also stopped and watched. What are these two big guys? They look so strange. Yeah, I've never seen a monster that looks like this. It looks a bit fierce. Why did these people bring two monsters so early in the morning? I don't really understand it, but it's definitely not for no reason. Wait a minute, I seem to have seen these two monsters on the internet. I remembered that these two things seem to be called earthworms. Naturally, there were some well-informed people among the crowd. After some observation, they quickly recognized the earthworm. I remember that this thing seems to be used to suppress floods. Generally, these things are placed in the center of the river in places where the water is strong and floods are prone to occur. Is it really that magical? Really, many places used this thing for water control in ancient times, but what I'm curious about is why we need this thing here. As they spoke, the onlookers turned their attention to the Daodao River next to them, which was not even as deep as one person. And this is still during the wet season in summer. Let alone a flood, it would be difficult to drown a person. While the onlookers were puzzled, people from the Natural Disaster Prevention and Control Center had arranged for a crane to lower the two earthworm statues into the river. The one with its head raised was placed upstream, and the one with its head lowered was placed downstream. In an instant, a strange landscape appeared in the river. However, this was not the end. Just after the two earthworm statues were installed, 8 more large trucks soon drove to both sides of the river. Amid the puzzled looks of many onlookers, cast iron buffaloes weighing dozens of tons each were placed on both sides of the river. And these iron cows are tied with thick iron chains in the middle, as if they are afraid of being removed. Such a scene stunned nearly 1,000 citizens who gathered at the scene. The middle-aged man who had recognized the earthworm before was frowning now. What's going on? It's an earthworm and an iron cow again. The earthworm controls water, and the iron ox controls water. Is it possible that floods can really occur in the Qinghai city? Thinking of this ridiculous idea, the man immediately shook his head. There was no heavy rain, and there was no typhoon. The urban area of Qinghai was not a flood discharge area, so it was impossible for a major flood to occur. Other citizens who learned about the functions of earthworm and iron ox also shook their heads. These are the people who are cheating the state of subsidies and doing these face-saving projects all day long. That is to say, I saw someone laying ceramic tiles in the river some time ago. Isn't that just cheating the country's money? I guess the same goes for these people. Just this statue costs $1 million each, and those iron bowls shouldn't cost tens of millions. Besides, look at these things, do they look good? Take a video and report it. We'll see which department did it and punish them to death. Just when the onlookers were preparing to take videos for exposure, a loud noise suddenly came from the upper river. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Entertainment, let you do a side job and set up a stall to tell fortunes. Author, Immortal Q in Love is. Chapter 249. On the banks of the Daodao River, as more and more citizens gathered to watch the excitement, more than 1,000 people soon gathered here. Many people are very interested in the earthworm statues placed in the river and the iron ox on the riverside. Therefore, the functions of earthworm statues and iron bowls in suppressing floods are also well known. Some people think this is completely unnecessary and a waste of national money. The other part was in no rush to comment. Just when the onlookers were talking about it, a loud noise from the upper reaches of the river instantly attracted everyone's attention. At the same time, people waiting at the Natural Disaster Prevention and Control Center next to the Daodao River also received footage from drones upstream. What is displayed on the screen is exactly the situation on Longling Mountain at the current time. To be precise, Longling Mountain at this moment can no longer be called a mountain. A large amount of floods have gathered into the mountain, forcibly creating a tianqi across the mountain. But at this moment, this tianqi with a huge water capacity suddenly collapsed after several days of hoarding. A huge gap appeared directly in the direction of Nanhua district. A large amount of flood water rushed toward the Dao River along this gap. The water was as severe as the Yellow River bursting its banks. Such a scene frightened everyone at the Natural Disaster Prevention and Control Center to the point where their faces turned pale and their legs weakened. From this, they also remembered what Yang Lin had said to them before. Looking at the time again, it happened to be 8 o'clock sharp. Everything clicked. When they thought of this, everyone's eyes changed again when they looked at Yang Lin. Taoist Master Yang, you are such a god. I didn't expect that the barrier lake above would really collapse. You can expect this. If it weren't for you, we might have to wait until the floods come down to find out. By then, it would be too late. Not much to say now, please quickly ask those citizens who are in the river and on both sides of the river to get out of the way. The flood will subside later. As he spoke, a group of personnel from the Natural Disaster Prevention and Control Center immediately rushed to both sides of the river and shouted, "Please don't stay here, there will be flooding soon. It's too dangerous. Everyone, go to the side. The barrier lake upstream has collapsed." With the sound of the loudspeaker, the citizens who were still watching the excitement were suddenly startled, and then there was an expression of disbelief on their faces. Are you kidding? It's such a sunny day. Where did the flood come from? That's right, I have lived here for more than 50 years, and I have never heard that this river will flood. I haven't heard of it either. What do these people do? I don't know. Those things were brought here early in the morning, and then they said there was a flood coming. It couldn't be some foreign force. But why do I feel that the Taoist priest standing on the bridge over there looks familiar? I also have this feeling. There is no doubt that most citizens at this moment do not believe that flooding will occur here, even if the people from the Natural Disaster Prevention and Control Center slit their throats there, it is useless. But Yang Lin himself was now on the stone bridge in the center of the river, with the water of Dadao River underneath. I saw him holding his hands behind his back and looking straight upstream of the river. After about 5 minutes, he suddenly murmured, "Coming." As soon as he finished speaking, another huge noise came from the upper reaches of the river. Like the rolling thunder before a rainstorm. Unconsciously, the citizens on both sides of the river looked towards the upper reaches of the river. At this moment, a large torrent carrying rocks, earthworks, and river garbage appeared at the corner of the river like a wild beast. Wherever it passed, whether it was the flowers and plants on the riverbed or the artificially placed landscapes, they were all washed away. At the beginning, the people on both sides of the river did not react. Until it gradually fills the entire river channel. Oh my God, the flood is really coming. Where did such a huge flood come from? Run quickly, the flood is coming. Ah! Screams, shouts, and various sounds filled with fear soon resounded from both sides of the river. The citizens who were very leisurely before now no longer have that leisure. Each one of them was more frightened than seeing a lion or a tiger. If you see a lion or tiger, you still have a chance to escape. But if one is caught in this raging flood, no matter how strong the water is, people will not be able to escape. Suddenly, everyone fled along the Daohe River. At the same time, the flood that had just arrived quickly filled the entire river. Everyone thought this was scary enough. What they didn't expect was that this was just the beginning. After the first round of flood peaks, the water level of the flood rose further, and more turbulent floods followed. In just a minute or two, it was almost impossible to find the original location of the Dao River. The entire riverbed was forcibly widened by dozens of meters by the flood. When this scene fell into the eyes of the citizens who fled hundreds of meters next to the riverbed, their faces instantly turned pale. There was even a layer of sweat on his forehead. Apparently they were frightened too. If they had left just a few dozen seconds late, they would no longer know where they were swept up by the flood. He couldn't tell which rock he was shot to death on. After a long while, they gradually calmed down. Oh my God, it's so scary. I've never seen such a horrific flood. Yes, when we were at Hyukao waterfall, the amount of water was only at this level. Oh my God, if I had left a little later, I might have disappeared on the spot. Fortunately, I didn't go down into the river just now, otherwise my wife would have remarried with the children. It's really strange. It's so good. Where did the flood come from? I'm also confused. Waterlogging in Qinghai happens quite often. When did a flood happen? So, those people just knew that there would be a flood. No wonder they kept shouting there. Wait a minute, they not only expected the flood to come, but they also prepared the mythical beasts to suppress the flood in advance. At this moment, everyone finally remembered the earthworms and iron bulls that had been transported by the Natural Disaster Prevention and Control Center. There was a look of horror on every face. Thinking of this, they immediately looked towards the river. I saw that the entire river was submerged by the flood at this moment, but the two earthworm statues remained motionless in the flood. After encountering them, the turbulent flood seemed to be suppressed by some mysterious force and became calmer. Before everyone could be surprised by this, those with sharp eyes looked at the stone bridge above the river. Look, the Taoist priest over there is still on the bridge. Isn't he afraid of being washed away by the flood? As soon as these words came out, everyone's eyes instantly turned to the direction of Shikiao. Entertainment, let you do a side job and set up a stall to tell fortunes. Author, Immortal Q int Love is. Chapter 250. On the Daodao River, as the flood peaks hit one after another, the water level of the river has been rising. And the stone arch bridge built in the previous dynasty looked so thin in the rushing river. Everyone even suspected that this century-old stone bridge would be completely washed away if the next flood peak arrived. After all, even the most powerful bridges cannot withstand the constant erosion of floods. Of course, the focus of everyone's attention at this moment is not the stone bridge, but the people on the stone bridge. Following their gazes, just above the stone bridge, a young Taoist priest wearing a Taoist robe was standing with his hands behind his back, as if he didn't take the flood seriously at all. Despite the roar of the flood below, he remained unmoved. Seeing this scene, everyone also shouted loudly, "Little Taoist master, come down quickly, it's dangerous on the bridge." Yes, little Taoist priest, now is not the time to show off, there will be no one around later. I'm sorry, I just said that I remember seeing him somewhere. Isn't he Taoist master Yang Liniang? When you say that, it seems true. Should Dao Kang Yang go to work at the police station now? Why is he here? Yes, wait, do you think there is a possibility that this flood is related to Taoist Yang? You mean the flood was caused by Yang Dao Kang? Are you a Shabai? I mean, Taoist master Yang calculated in advance that there would be a flood here, and then he brought people over to warn us in advance. As soon as these words came out, the onlookers suddenly felt a sense of enlightenment. After all, the behavior of everyone at the Natural Disaster Prevention and Control Center just now was too weird. But if Yang Lin is helping behind this, then everything will make sense. If that's the case, were those monsters created by Taoist Yang? It must be, otherwise who would have thought of using them to suppress floods? If it was Taoist Yang who came up with it, then I think it's money well spent. Just as the onlookers were talking to each other, the flood became more and more urgent and bigger. The water level in the riverbed also began to rise continuously. Despite this, everyone still discovered a strange scene. That is, no matter how high the flood level rises, the two earthworm statues are always above the water. And when it flows past these two statues, the impact of the flood will obviously become much smaller. In addition, although the raging floods are always raging in the riverbed, they rarely rush out of the river. It's like being bound by some kind of force. This scene was caught in the eyes of the Natural Disaster Management Bureau and the onlookers at the same time. It's amazing. Just two stone statues actually reduced the momentum of the flood. Yes, the people at the observation station above us have already tested the flow rate and flow rate. If it were under normal conditions, it would never be like this. It seems that those two earthworm statues really worked. Not only the earthworm statues, but also the iron bulls. So far, except for a small amount of flood overflow on both sides of the river, there has been almost no damage. Sure enough, there are some things that you have to believe. Indeed, there are some things that are not scientific but are very useful. While everyone at the Natural Disaster Management Bureau was sighing, the onlookers also exploded. Today, I pulled my forehead with a knife and opened my eyes. Such a fierce flood did not cause any damage. That's right, the amount of water is almost causing a disaster. I was stunned. I think it's all thanks to the two stone statues in the river. If it weren't for them, the place where we are standing would have been submerged. Why do I feel like those two statues came to life when they were in the flood? I have this feeling. I don't know who carved these two statues. Those iron cows are really awesome. They can actually stop the flood in the river. It goes without saying that these must be Taoist Master Yang's handiwork. Who else has such ability besides him? Just when everyone was shocked by the magical scene in front of them, a faint cry for help came from the river. Hearing this sound, everyone quickly looked into the river. At a glance, I saw a small figure rising and falling in the flood, with only a small head still exposed. Upon closer inspection, It turned out to be a little boy who looked to be only 7 or 8 years old. In an instant, the faces of everyone on the shore changed drastically. No, someone fell into the water. I'm afraid the children were playing in the river and didn't have time to get ashore. This is how to do it. Is anyone going to rescue him? How can we save it? It's impossible to save it. I'm afraid it will be sucked in by the flood as soon as it hits the water. Yes, given the current flow rate of the flood, as soon as you jump in, the person will be washed away. No matter how good the water is, it is useless. Then what should we do? We can't just ignore death. Suddenly, everyone had no choice but to worry on the shore. Seeing a life passing away in front of them. The scene that happened next made them somewhat unexpected. The boy who was originally swept away by the flood suddenly stopped when he was washed around the first earthworm statue. With this moment of breathing, the boy climbed to the top of the earthworm statue with quick eyes and hands. The whole process went so smoothly, it looked like the boy was saved by an earthworm. Seeing this scene, everyone on the shore cheered instantly. That's great. This boy is really lucky. Such a big flood didn't wash him away. Yeah, it's incredible. I thought he was dead just now. It's such a coincidence. The flood happened to wash up to the statue, and it was also an area with slow flow behind it. Is it a coincidence? Why don't I think this is a coincidence? Is it possible that the earthworm statue really appeared and saved him? Really? Now he just needs to wait slowly on top of the statue. I estimate that the water level will slowly go down later. That's all we can do, otherwise we would be powerless. Wait a minute, did something fly by just now? Just when everyone breathed a sigh of relief for the boy, a figure suddenly rose into the sky and arrived on top of the earthworm statue in an instant. It stayed for less than a second before rising again. When everyone looked again, they found that the boy lying on the earthworm just now was gone. After searching for a long time, someone finally found him. He's on the bridge over there. How did he get there? It's Taoist Yang saved him. Sure enough, looking in the direction they said, the little boy who had been rescued by the earthworm appeared beside Yang Lin at some unknown time. But before everyone could cheer for it, the stone arch bridge, which had been built for hundreds of years, suddenly began to shake.